Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com with us, talking about Indiana as they get ready to open their season. The women's team having an expected great start to their year. Another big win last night for them, Alec.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of people were looking to see exactly, how they performed at Tennessee. I think they knocked it out of the park. Terry Moran talked about it a lot, even to finish last year and coming into this year. The ability to be in a lot of these big time games and these nationally televised big showdowns, but just haven't been able to kind of, finish some of them. Right? They were in the game for the majority of that against UConn. Obviously the year before with Arizona in the Elite Eight, and just haven't been able to get over the hump a little bit in these big time games, and led from basically start to finish against Tennessee, and we're really able to overcome that third quarter run that Tennessee had and finish strong. And this is a fantastic team that Terry Moran has. I think reaching in the transfer portal, bringing in a lot of Power 5 players was significant, especially with what they lost last year. And obviously they've been playing great up to this point throughout the first 4 or 5 games. Next test, obviously against Carolina, just like the men's team for the ACC Big Ten Challenge on the women's side. So that should be another one with a top 15 opponent in North Carolina. So they're testing themselves early, playing against national brands, and that's what I think Terry Moran's been trying to get to establish Indiana as that national brand. And I think they're there. And now it's just about winning some of these games, much like the men's team as well, getting back to kind of that national conversation and winning some of these big time games. So not a better year for men's or women's basketball for this Indiana program altogether than what they're probably going to have this year.
It's probably going to be a historical season, to be quite honest with you, for the two combined, I mean. But yep. It's been great. Jerome Hunter, former Indiana player on Xavier's roster, doesn't get a lot of playing time. One of Archie Miller's recruits that ended up with his brother. I'm looking down for the season. He's averaging 11 minutes. He's averaging 11 minutes a game in the 3 games that he's played. He's hit his free throws. He's got 4 rebounds, averages assists, a little under 4 points a game. So if I don't know how much you'll see Jerome Hunter tonight, more than that. You may see him a little more if they're having issues with their guard and they have to make different arrangements, although I know he's not a guard. But so there's the Jerome Hunter update. But he's not a high caliber player for them, I think, as you said.
Yeah, and I mean the biggest thing that however you want to put it, the unfortunate part about him, the skill has not translated ever since he missed the year at Indiana to kind of begin his career. But the biggest thing coming back was, where does he fit? Is he on the perimeter? Is he a big man? Xavier's tried to kind of morph him into that stretch 4, but he's not big enough to play in the post for the most part. And if he's not hitting his outside shots, that's really not going to be super effective. He scored 11 points in the opener. Has not scored a single point since then. So he's gone 11, then 0-0. And he's not even attempted a 3-point shot on the season. So if you're not getting any scoring out of him, really not a lot you're going to get out of him. And has 11 fouls and 11 points on the season. And that was the biggest thing when he did get into the games for Indiana, was the foul trouble. It looks like that's, staying part of the course there. But, it's just good to see him out on the floor. We'll see, what he provides for Xavier in the back end of that rotation. But like you said, if they get into foul trouble, which, theoretically they could, if Indiana's going to pound the post there, you could see some extended minutes from him. And, I think he'll be fired up and ready to go, obviously. And we'll see if he can have some sort of magic and spark for Xavier. But, just not a huge part of, what that team is trying to do this year.
And I'm also going to be interested to see how Biller Kopp does on the road. He's been shooting the ball well and not forcing things. The team overall, I've mentioned this, some of the starters have not really shot the ball that well from a percentage standpoint. I remember, out of the 2 games, at least both times, 2 or 3 of the starters went 1 for 5 or something like that. And in the last game, I think 3 of the 5 starters shot less than 30% for the game. But it's the rest of the team that helps make up for that. Well, Trace Jackson made up for that with his 9-10 performance. But it's kind of been glossed over a little bit because of who they played, and they've been able to overall shoot the ball so well. But that is something that I'm going to have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting, right? You know, the backcourt has struggled to shoot the ball a little bit to begin here. Xavier Johnson hasn't taken a ton of overall shots outside of the exhibition games. But obviously Jalen Hood-Schifino struggled a little bit in that second game, mainly from the perimeter. Still, when he gets in kind of the mid-range and 15 feet and in, he does a pretty good job of finishing. But outside of the big guys, not a lot of people are taking a lot of twos. You know, Miller Kopp hasn't made a 2-point field goal to begin the season here, just hit everything on threes. Or free throws to start, only taken 3 2-point shots to begin here in the first couple of games. So at some point he's going to need to take a few more because they're going to run him off the 3-point line. He's going to need to finish in the mid-range, and he's shown the ability to do that. But outside of that, I mean, you have a lot of those forwards in Jordan Geronimo, Malik Renew, who are pretty much going to stay 15 feet and in. And so far, they're, you look at all those big guys outside of Race Thompson, who struggled a little bit with his shot, just not looking as aggressively because they don't need him to be quite honest. But Jordan Geronimo, Malik Renew, and Trace Jackson Davis, the 3 leading scorers for this team, all shooting above 71% from the field. And if you have that in 3 of your key players, especially 6'7" and taller, that's going to be tough to stop, especially if you have multiple guys doing that. And you have 2 guys coming off the bench and doing that, going against second units for a large portion of the game. That's going to be difficult to stop no matter how big and tall, long you are. So it's going to be interesting to see if these guards can kind of step up, hit some shots, because you're going to need to tonight. I think you're going to see a little bit more double teaming of the post there, whether it's Malik Renew or Trace Jackson Davis, and force these guards to hit some outside shots, which, again, coming into this year has been a huge issue with this team so far this year, especially, last time out. They show they do have the ability to hit those outside shots. So we'll see if they're able to do that on the road, and especially early on, and see if they miss a couple shots early on, if they tense up, which they have a tendency to do in the past. And we'll see, obviously, how that all works out.
On the recruiting side, Cyril St. Indiana had a couple of recruits to visit here recently. Of course, Cyril is one of those, the big man Indiana covets, as well as a lot of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the 2 official visits he's been on right now are Cincinnati and then Indiana. Indiana really only been involved for the past couple of weeks, but assistant coach Zero Roseman has done a fantastic job with that recruitment, getting him on campus. Visit went about as good as you could expect the visit to go, if not a little bit better. Indiana, I think, is going to be very, very significant in this recruitment. Right now, still a 2024 class, does have the option to move up, and there have been some talks about him potentially moving up to 2023. He's a little bit older for his grade, so that's why some of that talk has shifted to potentially move into the 2023 class. But talking with his guardian, they're in the 2024 class right now. They're going to stay there until they need to make a decision on that. But we'll see what happens here in the next couple of months. I don't envision a lot of official visits coming, especially playing on Overtime Elite. It's a very hectic schedule. His guardian Stephen Cook is a coach for Hamilton Heights there in Chattanooga, outside in Tennessee. So their schedules don't really align a whole lot, obviously, with this season now. So we'll see what happens. But Indiana's pushing extremely hard for him. I think Indiana's going to be one of those 1 or 2 teams to beat for him, and still would not shock me to see him go class of 2023, but at the moment staying in 2024.
Let's see, and then Dylan Harper visited recently as well. That was almost a week ago now.
Yeah, they were both on the visit together last weekend, but Dylan Harper, obviously 5-star guard, brother of Ron Harper Jr. there at Rutgers. Rutgers and Duke seem to be.
There's no chance this kid comes to Indiana after Ron Harper's exit from Rutgers. I just don't see it, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Rutgers is going to be tough to beat. Been there, numerous times. Has the history there, and obviously we saw what Ron Harper Jr. was able to do at Rutgers. That's going to be difficult to beat. I still think Duke is very strong in there, and the people that I talk to kind of around that recruitment do see Rutgers and Duke as the top two, and then you kind of drop a level, and Indiana's right there. But at the moment, it just seems like it's going to be a little bit too difficult to overcome one of those two schools in this recruitment. But at the same time, again, they needed to get him on campus to even have a remote shot. They did that. They kind of hit all the keys that they needed to hit. His mom runs basically that entire recruitment. So you needed the mom to be on some sort of the same page. She was on that visit, as she will be with every other visit that he takes. But I think out of those two visits this past weekend, you look at Santos, and that's the one to continue to follow for Indiana if you're going to follow one of those two as we continue to trend into the rest of their recruiting cycle.
Also, let's see. What was I going to ask about? Dang it. On the recruiting side, Indiana has not. There's not been anybody that's really been targeted. Are they going to have to hit the portal after this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they signed obviously the two guards that they've had committed for quite a while, and Ja'Kai Newton and Gabe Cupps, both 4-star guards. Really solidified the backcourt, but they're still going to look at probably two positions in the transfer portal, or again with reclassifying. It's going to be a big guy. They have a lot of minutes available in that front court for next year with the departures of Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson, who obviously play a large part in this team for the past 2 seasons, if not more. So you need someone who can step in immediately and play that role, regardless of what is going to happen with Malik Renew. In terms of the role that he's going to play, I would be surprised to see him go after this year, but we'll see what happens as the season continues to go on here. And then they're going to go out, and I would be shocked if they don't go out and get a veteran point guard. I think a lot of the expectation is Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to leave after this year. Even if he does not leave, you still need to get another point guard. I don't think as good as Gabe Cupps is going to be, I don't think he's going to be expected to play 15, 17, 18 minutes a game as a freshman. I think he's going to be a very good third point guard or third ball handler in spot minutes. But I don't think you're going to see Gabe Cupps' true potential and part of this team until sophomore, junior years. So you need to go out and you need to get a veteran point guard. And Indiana's been able to obviously get good guards late in recruiting periods. Obviously got Tamar Bates, got Xavier Johnson through the transfer portal, got Parker Stewart through the transfer portal as well. So they've been able to showcase that ability to go out and get guards. And now after 2 full seasons of what Indiana's doing under Mike Woodson, it's going to be even a easier recruiting pitch, especially with the style of play that they want with multiple ball handlers on the floor, which is what you need in the modern game of basketball. There's not going to be a guard that's going to be limited when he comes to Indiana, especially if you take away Trace Jackson Davis. That even opens it up more for the potential for a big time scoring guard. So those are the 2 positions of need. They're going to get that in the transfer portal or in a late addition in the 2023 class. But I would go more on the side of the transfer portal at the moment, just because the guys who aren't committed right now in the 2023 class, Indiana is not involved with. Don't expect them to get involved with. And unless there's some, there's always going to be some guys who obviously get out of their letters of intent if a coach leaves or decommit from a school late in the cycle. But I don't see that being the fit for Indiana at the moment. I think they're going to go more veteran, and they need to next year in order to hit some of these holes that are going to be left after some of these departures in key positions.
Well, tonight's game is going to be an environment, a tournament-like environment, Alec. I know the Hoosier.com is going to be there in force. What all do you have in store, and what can the people look for?
Yeah, well, obviously, we'll be there. We'll have a lot of guys there from our site. Biggest thing, obviously, a lot of previews up on the site right now, scouting notes, full game previews. Have some stuff about what Sean Miller had to say about Indiana. But yeah, going into the game, the key is obviously the backcourt. I think is, we talked about that earlier. That's the biggest key in my opinion. What Indiana is going to be able to do defensively to slow down the dribble drive, which they did struggle with at times last year. And then, are they going to be able to hit outside shots at the same rate that they did last game? Probably not. So are they going to at least be able to hit at some sort of rate in between the first game and the second game, which you're going to need to do? And then, Indiana's still going to have their hands full with Xavier's front court. No matter what Indiana's front court is going to do, I think Xavier it throws a lot of different tools and has a lot of versatility with not only Jack Nungy, but Zach Fremantle, who's coming off of a triple-double their last time out, averaging 15, 7, and 5 as a 6'10" big guy. So bring a lot of different pieces to that team. And then, which I think we talked about during the break, was the status around Colby Jones. They're a really, really talented wing, kind of all-around player. Leads the team in assists as well. Really good playmaker. We'll see if he plays, dealing with an ankle sprain. Sean Miller said it's going to be pretty much a game time decision, but he is leaning towards the emphasis that he will play. So still a question mark there. We'll see what happens, but I think those are the keys when you're looking at this matchup later on tonight.
Looking forward to it. Make sure you give Alec Lasley a follow on Twitter and go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of tonight's game with Indiana and Xavier. At Xavier, they will have a live thread and everything else that you need. Alec, thank you very much, man.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Appreciate you.